flipping me off. I guess she wants to be a chimpanzee. You know, I come out and I say, have a higher view of yourself. That's not true about you. You're something far more special than that. You're a creation of God, and somebody gets mad at that. So let me ask you, isn't that an interesting observation? Somebody would come out and say, you're not just an animal, you're not just here by chance, you're not just stardust, you have real value, real meaning, real purpose, anchored in a real creator God. And people rage against that. They get mad, they flip you off, right? Somebody help me understand, connect those dots. I really would like to understand the connection between someone saying, there is a God, you're not just an evolved monkey, your life has real purpose and meaning, and people flip you off for that. Wow, that's interesting. Doesn't hurt my feelings, by the way. In fact, I invite it. At least it shows that there's some emotional reaction. Now, most Americans today, I would say, are neither strongly religious. This is the trend. The trend is towards something called not atheism, but what's been called apatheism. Not atheism, but apatheism. Is there a God? I don't know. I don't really care. Has nothing to do with the game this weekend, tonight. Has nothing to do with the parties this weekend. Has nothing to do with my sorority. Has nothing to do with my boyfriend or girlfriend. Has nothing to do with my job. So, you know, I really just don't care. I don't think about it. Apatheism. But let me submit to you, friends, here's what C.S. Lewis said, a man much wiser than I. He said in England, he was an Oxford University professor back in the 1950s and 60s. Listen to this quote from C.S. Lewis. He said, Christianity, if false, if Christianity is false, it is of no importance. If Christianity is false, right? If it's false, how you doing?
So I offer you a banana.
Oh, sure, thank you, yeah.
You just accepted a banana from another man. How does that make you feel?
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, yeah. It got potassium in it and everything else, right?
Real. You need that for your brain.
Yeah. Electrolytes, right?
Electrolytes.
Yeah, do you believe in God, would you say?
No.
No, why not?
Not my thing.
Really? Not your thing?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about whether it's really true and not just how you feel about it?
Yeah.
And so, talk me through that. What kind of reasoning did you engage in?
Well, there's like a billion different religions out there.
Okay.
And, you know, the Christian God, I was Christian for a little bit. He seems like kind of an asshole.
Yeah, how so?
If you don't worship him and spend your entire life being like, oh my God, my only purpose is to serve you, then you go to hell and burn for eternity. And
so what would be your alternate purpose? Right, so serve God, that's one option, right? And I do endeavor to do that.
Active participation. Love.
Okay. So you're kind of defining that for yourselves?
Yeah, I think a person can do that, free will and all.
So would that be objectively true, or is that just sort of your subjective sense of purpose and meaning?
I mean, that's every idea of what a purpose and meaning can be is subjective. Yours is too.
Really?
Yeah.
I would say it's not, because it's anchored in what is objectively true, right?
Okay.
Now, if you're anchoring your sense of identity and purpose and meaning in, well, I'm just stardust that got arranged by evolutionary processes, physical forces, I don't know if that's what you believe or not. Would you say that's pretty accurate? That you're just, what makes up your body is minerals and elements and chemicals that are physical things.
Yeah, close enough.
That have been arranged by a very long series of physical processes.
Yeah.
So if that's true about you, how would you get to the basis for like decision making, if that's true?
Oh yeah, it's a great question. So in your brain you've got all of your neurons, and they electrically communicate with each other through action potentials.
Right.
And so basically your neurons have their like membrane, and then there's the outside of the membrane.
Yep.
The outside of the membrane is
the ECF, the extracellular fluid.
Yeah, it's very positively charged, and the inside is like negatively charged. And
about negative 55 millivolts relative to the outside environment.
Yeah.
That's the resting state. Yeah.
That sounds close enough.
Yeah,
it's at like 65, 70. So that's like the resting zone of the membrane.
Yeah.
And then there's like protein channels that allow for voltage gated protein channels that allow for sodium and potassium to like flow through, and they can interact with each other.
And also the G-protein coupled receptors, the second messenger systems. Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't be an action potential though. That would be a synapse. But it's also.
Well, they also control ionophores, things like inward rectifying potassium channels, speaking of potassium. So yeah, it all influences selective permeability of the cell membrane, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, like, obviously all the stuff with calcium and making more receptors, and then the circuits can interact with each other, and then they can interact with other circuits, and that builds up to, like, a really complex brain, and all of that...
It's still a machine, though, right? That's what I'm trying to get at. It's still, you still have... Now, if you look at it on the atomic level, like the smallest thing, maybe something like a potassium ion, right? Very, very, very tiny. But still, you're talking about a physical object that is governed strictly by the laws of physics on a kind of a micro level. So in that system, do you see room for anything that would truly amount to choice or volition or free will?
Yeah, that's the entire point of the brain. It's the way it evolved so that organisms can interact intelligently with their environment.
Right.
Like, if it was just like, I am an organism, I need food to live, so I will eat every amount of food that I see, that wouldn't work at all. Because, like, eventually you're going to be too full, you could, like, damage your stomach. Like, on a higher level organism, that's not going to work to the same way it would for a unicellular organism.
Okay.
So it allows them to discern and make decisions.
Right, they make better decisions, granted. Yeah. I would grant that, but I would say at the end of the day, it's still input, response.
Yeah, the entire structure is about navigating responses.
So how do we get to the point that we make real decisions? We say something like, racism is wrong, and if you disagree with that, if you think racism is good, then hey man, you're just wrong. You're on the wrong side of not only my opinion, but you're on the wrong side of, like, reality and truth and justice. Because I would make a statement like that, and you probably would too, right? Here's my argument. I would say that I can substantiate that based upon my Christian worldview, whereas I don't believe the atheist can do the same thing.
You don't believe that someone can see with their own eyes and make a judgment of something without...
Yeah, that's...
I think you do,
the reason that you
but I think there's an inconsistency there.
The reason that you would believe racism is wrong is probably because of, like, some deeper held axiomatic belief of, like, treating people differently because of characteristics that they control is wrong, or like all people deserve, like that's more like something personal that you believe to yourself. And someone who thinks like racism,
is it objectively true though, or is that just my opinion?
It's a deeply held personal opinion. Yeah, that would be like your own belief.
So can opinions be wrong?
To somebody without that belief, then they would like have a different opinion and be like, I'm gonna be a terrible person and like screw people over based on something they can't.
See, we used, and I agree with you, terrible person, screwing people over, absolutely. That's a correct analysis. But I would say you're objectively right there. That's not just your opinion. But if a person's going around screwing people over, that is an objectively terrible thing to do.
That's fair, and you can say that.
Yeah.
But to that person, they probably don't think they're objectively terrible. And they're also a person.
A lot of them do, but they do it anyway, right?
That's also the case, but
they're called politicians now. I shouldn't get it.
Real.
No, I appreciate your questions. It's something to think about. I used to be an atheist, right? And in fact, I don't know, I did a lot of time in neuroscience. It's interesting that you brought that up.
I'm a neuroscience major, baby.
I was actually a neuroscience researcher at the University of Georgia.
Slag.
And so I did my undergrad here, and then I went to UGA, did my master's PhD there, and actually taught physiological psychology for a number of years. Was an atheist, was an evolutionist. Obviously a long story about coming out of that and placing my faith in Christ. Yeah.
What sort of research did you do?
Cannabinoid, the endocannabinoid system. The body's own marijuana-like substances that go by really strange names like 2-arachidonoglycerol. Doesn't just really roll off of the tongue. But these are substances that your brain produces. Another one is called anandamide, which is from the Sanskrit word for bliss. And so the reason why you have cannabinoid receptors in your brain is not like so people would go smoke pot and get high. It's, there's a normal biological role for those. And so we were kind of mapping out that system. So that really, it was a new thing about 20 or 25 years ago. And I haven't been involved in research for about 12 years now. But for about 6 or 8 years, that was my life.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to go into neuroscience research, but it is really interesting. I'll probably, get a job and, do it for a little bit, but that's not, my ultimate goal.
Okay. Good, yeah.
I can't do that right now, though, because I already have a 78-hour work week. So
wow.
That's fine.
Sounds pretty stressful.
A little bit.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
What?
That is fantastic. That sounds great. I would love to have a
I'm having so much fun.
Taking 26 credit hours.
26 credit hours.
Yeah.
What in the world, man? We try. You just don't like sleep or what?
I'm actually anti-friends. I'm trying to get these two to stop following me around,
Okay.
so I'm just going to do only neuroscience until they get the idea.
Okay, I got you.
I'm infiltrating neuroscience to follow you.
Yeah. So do they have a neuroscience program here now? Like you can get a degree in neuroscience?
Yeah, it's 4 years old this year.
Okay, cool. Yeah. It's definitely an up and coming field.
It is.
And I do miss it a lot, but I've been telling myself I need to get back and kind of reacquaint myself with the field and what's happened in the last 10 years.
Yeah, you may as well. I mean, there's some really interesting research going on right now. There's at this university, there's a research lab that is working on looking into painkillers that wouldn't be addictive.
Right. Well, that's kind of what we did because we were targeting the endocannabinoid system.
Oh, that makes sense then.
Right. And so, like, the idea is, especially with chronic pain, nerve injury pain, post-operative pain, cancer pain, there's a process called wind-up. It actually goes by, the real name is central sensitization. But the same mechanisms in your brain, you probably study the hippocampus, right? And its role in learning and memory and all of those things. The same on the cellular level, the same mechanisms that govern learning and memory in the hippocampus can actually be maladaptive because, like the spinal cord, for example, can quote learn how to be in pain. And that's not something you want to learn. That's something you want to unlearn.
Yeah.
And so these drugs can come in and kind of assist with that unlearning process, where it kind of defeats the sensitization, so people don't go on to stay in chronic pain conditions.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Putting your bananas in the pocket.
Yeah. I appreciate the banana.
Yeah, no problem. I love bananas. I like to eat them as a popsicle. My favorite video game has, like, you can make food in the video game. That's not what it's about, but you can.
Yeah.
And there's a food called banana pop, where it's basically just a banana on a stick, frozen.
Okay.
And
very simple to make, right? I probably couldn't even mess that up.
So I tried it. I got some, like, little cake sticks for cake pops, put them through a banana, leave them in my fridge, and now my roommate thinks I'm weird because our fridge is full of frozen bananas.
They turn real brown though in the freezer, right? Is there a way to keep them from getting real brown?
In the fridge, when you put them in the fridge and then you take them out of the fridge, the, like, temperature change is going to, like, they'll start producing the hormone that makes them turn brown.
Yeah.
But if you leave them in the freezer and then you eat them straight out of the freezer, they won't turn brown. They just get hard.
Yeah, because they won't heat up fast enough for the change to happen.
Yep.
Right. I'll have to try that out then. Yeah.
Pretty good.
My name's Rich, by the way.
Rich, I'm Ethan.
Ethan, yeah, good to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
Yeah. Well, I think Jesus Christ, Ethan, that's what I'd say, is worth checking into. Even if you look at it with fresh eyes, I don't know if you've done that recently, but just take some time and reread the gospel. Read the Gospel of John.
I considered it. My ex-partner is a Christian, and I was, like, thinking of going to church with him. But, I know those people. Anyway, I go to this university. Sometimes I know people. I get distracted easily also. What was I talking about?
Well, if you're not getting any sleep, you probably get distracted easily.
Real. I got plenty of sleep today. I actually slept in, so that was nice.
Yeah.
And I get to do.
So you still think about it some. You still give Christ some thought and God.
Oh yeah,
It's just not vibing with you right now.
I do give it some thought, but then there was, like, this other guy who came down and was, like, yelling at everybody, and he had a sign that said, like, gay people are bad, and that's, like, one of the things that, like, drove me away from the church initially. Like, I was a Christian, like I said, and I stopped because I thought God was kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know. I can agree with, like, you shouldn't kill people because, that harms somebody else's life.
Okay.
But I can't get behind all the homophobia stuff, and, like, I just will not follow a God who has, like, man shall not lie with man in his Bible. I won't do it. And
is that just because of your own personal, like...
Yeah, because of my own deeply held beliefs. I believe that is wrong and cruel and terrible.
Okay. So you would say that if you and God disagreed on that you would be in the right and you would be in the wrong?
Yeah. Okay. And I wouldn't follow him.
So I wouldn't bring out a sign. I don't know who you're talking about because I live in Florida.
His name is Brandon.
His name Brandon? Okay, I don't know Brandon.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't bring a sign like that. Here's what I'd put: all people are evil. I think that's more biblical. All people are bad. That's what Scripture says. It doesn't really. Now it does call out specific sins. Like, let's just take example one you probably never hear a street preacher talk about, but Scripture talks about it time and time again. Coveting. You know what coveting is?
Yeah.
Like to be covetous. What does that mean?
It's like connected with jealousy, right?
Yeah.